Okay, the infamous $2,000 stimulus check or $2,000 dividend payment, as the president likes to call it. And I want to point out something here in this quick live stream that a lot of people are probably not recognizing, and I've heard not a single soul talk about this, but I think we need to take this into consideration because this is going to be a major determining factor for everybody out there if they're going to get this $2,000 or not, if they do it in the first place, which again, I think we really need to focus on that as well. All right, so obviously over the last nearly 2 weeks now, it hasn't been quite 2 weeks since the president floated this idea, which we've talked about extensively, and every other person and their uncle out there is also talking about this, so it's very, very popular. The president has not only doubled down, but he's like tripled and quadrupled down on this whole thing. We've seen all kinds of other people, lawmakers, the press secretary, the treasury secretary, the economic advisor, the list goes on and on, lawmakers, senators, representatives. I mean, it's a very long list of people that are coming out supporting this, showing their commitment to this, and suggesting, oh, this is a great idea, we should really do this. Okay, so we have to anticipate that they're likely going to do it based on what they've been telling us. However, I want to point something out for you here in this live stream. Again, I have not heard a single person talk about this, but I think we all need to take this into consideration because everybody wants to know, am I eligible? Who's going to get it? When are we going to get it, right? All of this like that. Now, again, I see comments down below literally every single day, down below in the comment section, across the channel on a variety of videos. People wondering if they're going to get it, again, if they're going to be eligible. I would say this is the biggest talking point that's out there. Not only is it going to happen in the first place, but am I going to get it too? Everyone wants to know, am I going to get it too, right? So anyway, let me focus on something here that we all need to consider, as this is very, very important. Okay, first off, just the other day as well, yep, we heard out of the president indicating, probably sometime mid next year or so. Again, I want to point this out super fast. There's a lot of things that are happening right now, okay? A lot of different things. Obviously, ideally, the president wants to have them go out sometime mid to late-ish next year, right? Huge surprise there. We all know the reason why, okay? That's not a big shocker whatsoever. But here's something else I want to point out as well, is that you've heard me say this a lot over the last several years. Economically based, if the economy crashes and burns in the next 1, 2, or 3 months, guess what happens? Stimulus is provided, okay? So my point being is that basically any time between now and probably, I don't know, middle of October, early November-ish next year, we could see these types of payments go out, okay? Obviously, I have no idea what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. No promises. All I'm saying is that if we're gonna see it, if we're gonna get this payment, it's going to happen sometime between now and basically November of next year. Okay, if they're going to do it, that's when we're gonna see it. After November of next year, the likelihood of it happening, honestly, probably very, very slim. After that, outside of basically a major economic situation where they need to provide massive stimulus to basically get us out of a major recession, okay? So if we happen to see that sometime after that, then obviously it could happen there. But I would say our best chances are literally between now and November of next year, okay? But here's what I want to point out as well, and this is the important part. So many people are caught up on, am I going to be eligible? Am I going to get this whole thing? Here's what I want to point out to you. It's going to be based off of 2025 numbers. What do I mean by that? Okay, here's what I want to point out. Remember, the only thing, let me emphasize, the only thing we need to determine as far as your eligibility for this is what? Your income. I don't care where your income comes from. It could be from walking dogs, mowing lawns, or literally getting it only out of Social Security as somebody who's retired. Maybe somebody with disabilities, maybe an SSI beneficiary, spousal, survivors, VA, RRB, it literally does not matter. Or maybe you're somebody working part-time, full-time, or even more. Maybe you're self-employed. It literally does not matter. Income is income. It does not matter where that money comes from. Income is income. Doesn't matter. Money that comes to you is income. Does not matter the source, okay? Okay, that's what it is determined off of, is income. But here's what I want to point out. It's going to be based off of your 2025 income. This is what nobody's talking about right now, and I want to point this out because this is actually very important, because what happens between, well, basically all of this year, and what happens in the next, call it 6 weeks or so, as I host this live stream right now, what happens between now and the end of the year is going to be used to determine your eligibility for this payment if it arrives in 2026. That's the big thing, okay? Is that if it arrives in 2026, the probability is this: they're going to use your income from this year, 2025, to determine your eligibility. But what do I mean by that? Let me use an example. Okay, think back a couple years ago, back to 2020, 2021, when we got 3 stimulus checks. Yes, fact, it happened. We know this, right? $1,200, $600, and $1,400, the 3 payments that were sent out. How did they determine somebody's eligibility? Number one, they put an income threshold in place. The first stimulus check was $100,000 for an individual, $200,000 for a married couple. Stimulus checks number 2 and number 3 was $75,000 for an individual and $150,000 for a married couple. Those were the income thresholds, okay? That's what they used. All other details, nobody cared. It did not matter. Income is income. That's all it determines, okay? Now, they also had to figure out, okay, well, what are we going to use to determine somebody's income? They used the prior year income that was reported to IRS, and that was what was used, okay? That's how they figured that out. Now, again, I'm probably seeing some people out there here that are listening to this right here, right now saying, I didn't file a tax return, and I don't file a tax return. That means I'm not going to get it. Doesn't matter. It's not about that at all. Do not worry about that, okay? I've been saying this so much lately. It does not matter if you file a tax return or not. They know how much money you earn. They know how much money you get. Doesn't matter if you file a tax return at all. Again, this is not tax advice. This is not accounting advice. I don't know your situation, and I'm not giving advice in any way, shape, or form in this video. I'm just simply saying it doesn't matter whatsoever. They know everything about you, every penny that you get, on an annualized basis, okay? Point being is that it doesn't matter. It's based on your income and then whatever comes into you. But here's the thing. Let's just say that this payment rolls out sometime in 2026, whenever. Let's just choose a random date sometime in 2026. Again, whenever that happens, again, if they do it in the first place, it's going to be strictly determined on your income from 2025. They're going to use whatever income you had in 2025 as the qualifier to use based on the threshold that they put in place, whatever that happens to be, based on what the Treasury Secretary said about, I don't know, a week and a half or so ago now. He mentioned that it's likely going to be $100,000 or less of income. Honestly, I think that number is going to come down a bit. I don't think it's going to be 100. I think it's going to be 75 for an individual and 150 for a married couple. That would be my anticipation, but who knows? Maybe they leave it at $100,000 as the Treasury Secretary said. But point being is this. When they figure out whatever that's going to be, they need a qualifier to determine what's your income, okay? If they do this in the middle of 2026, they can't use 2026 because the year's not over. They don't know what somebody's total income for that year is going to be. So what they're going to do is use the most recent income data that they have, which would be 2025 data, and that's what they're going to use to determine somebody's eligibility, okay? Now, let me say a couple more things about this because I've seen this comment more times than I can even count over the last 2 weeks or so. Many people in this community that watch these videos have been reaching out down below in the comment section saying, I don't file a tax return. I strictly live on Social Security. I strictly live on SSDI. I strictly live on SSI or whatever it is. I don't file a tax return. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Reason being is this. I know for a fact that your income is below about $16,000 if you don't file a tax return. Why? Am I like psychic or something? How do I know that? No, not psychic at all, because that's about what the standard deduction is. And if you don't file a tax return, basically what that tells me is that your income is below the standard deduction. So in the eyes of the government, your income is zero. You've got zero income in the eyes of the government. Okay, obviously it's not zero, but when it comes down to filing a tax return, it's basically zero because if you were to file, it would be zero anyway because it would be all zeroed out because of the standard deduction. Is that going to make sense, right? So my point behind this is this. Many people here have been very, very worried. I don't file a tax return. That means I'm not going to get it. Nothing to do with that. They don't give a rip if you file a tax return or not. That's not what this is about. But here is what it is about. Again, your income. Okay, I just said somebody that doesn't file a tax return has, basically $16,000. It's actually a little bit less than that, but I'm just saying 16,000 for easy rounding purposes, has about $16,000 or less of income in a single year. Okay? Well, let me just say this. Is zero less than $100,000? Yes. Okay? That's all that matters. That's it. That's it. That's all that matters. Income is below the threshold. Winner, got yourself a winner, got yourself a check. Okay, that's what that's all about. So that's what they're going to use here is 2025 data to determine somebody's eligibility for this. Okay, and that's what they've done historically when they send out these advanced payments, because here's the thing. If they were going to send this out as just a refund on somebody's tax return, if it wasn't in advance, they wouldn't need to do this. It wouldn't really matter because when somebody goes to file their tax return, they could just claim the refund right there. But that's not the purpose of this. The 3 stimulus checks that we received in 2020 and 2021 were based on prior year tax returns, and they advanced us the cash, assuming that our income would be pretty much the same that year, making us eligible. Is that going to make sense? Okay. So that's what they do. And the same thing here, because remember, the whole purpose of this next $2,000 here is not, well, based on right now, the whole purpose of this is basically a profit share, a dividend of the tariff revenues. Let's just say it how it is. It's basically a bribe right in front of the midterm election, right? We obviously know that. That's not a secret. We all clearly know the purpose behind this. But again, as I've said before, I don't really care. If they want to, bribe me and give me $2,000 per person, I'll gladly take it, right? And I think everybody else here would say probably the same thing. But my point being is that in the middle of the year like that, they don't really have income data at that point, because the year isn't over yet, if they advance it in the form of basically a refundable tax credit, which is literally what it is when they send out mid-year stimulus called stimulus checks, and that's what they do, okay? In the middle of the year, it's just based on prior year. So that's what I wanted to point out, is that 2025, right here, right now, whatever income is achieved, whatever income somebody has for the year of 2025, that is what they are going to use to determine the eligibility in the middle of the year, next year, or whenever they do this. Now, here's the thing. Let's just say that the economy crashes and burns in the next 2 months. Okay, well, that puts us like a couple weeks into January, right? So we're like basically fresh into the new year. Regardless of how you cut it, no matter what happens, unless something super really bad happens in the next like 2 weeks, for the most part, it's likely coming in sometime in 2026, just based on timing here, because there's only like 6 weeks left, less than 6 weeks left of 2025. So no matter how you cut it, it's pretty much going to be in 2026 at this point, just because of the timing behind this, how long it takes lawmakers to do something. Obviously, it has to go through the process of being approved by the House and the Senate, and then signed by the president into law. So we're kind of running down on the wire on this thing for it to happen in 2025, if it were to happen in the first place. But the timing would be not great as far as placed perfectly in front of the midterm election. If it were to be happening now or in the next, call it, handful of weeks or whatever, it would strictly be economically based. At this point, we don't have basically an economic situation that is suggesting that it needs to happen in the next 6 weeks or so. Okay, I'm just saying, that's just, to be fair, that's just what they're looking at now. Okay, so likelihood of this happening in 2026 gets greater and greater with every day that goes by, simply because we're running out of time in 2025. That's all it really comes down to. Does that make sense? Okay, so anyway, main point that I wanted to make for you here in this video is 2025. Nobody talks about this. They're going to use your income in 2025, as they typically and historically do. They're going to look back at 2025 to determine your eligibility in 2026 for an advanced payment, which is literally what these payments are, is an advanced payment. Now, let's talk about this whole tax filing situation, because I see this all the time, okay? Even if you don't file a tax return, if you're somebody strictly living on Social Security, and again, when I say Social Security, fill in the blank with any type of benefit, there's all kinds of benefits. If you strictly live on Social Security, and that's the only income that you have, and you don't file a tax return, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They still know how much you earn. Why? Well, guess what happens? Social Security supplies the IRS with what? documentation of literally how much they paid you to the penny in every single year. They supply all of this. Every single piece of income that you have is furnished to the IRS. They already know. Okay, they already know how much your income is, so it doesn't really matter. Now, typically what they've done the last 3 times, so in 2020, 2021, the 3 stimulus checks that were distributed then, what they did at that time is Social Security supplied the Treasury with a file and said, here you go, Treasury, here's a file with about 72 million names on it. 72 million names, their addresses, their birthdays. Guess what? Their Social Security numbers, their income, which IRS Treasury already has, they already know that. And then guess what else it has? Banking information. Yes, routing numbers, bank account numbers. Nice. That's amazing. Why? Because then they can just do a direct deposit right into your bank account, which is literally what they've done the last few years here. When they did these payments, they just supply that information because Social Security already has that data about you. They supply a simple file to Treasury, and then basically they just make the payment right to you into your bank account based on the information that Social Security supplies to them. That's it, okay? That's how they do this. They did it a few years ago. That's exactly how those payments went out. And did you need to file a tax return back in 2020 and 2021 to get those 3 stimulus checks at that time? The answer is no. You definitely did not need to, okay? Now, to be fair, some people did. After the payments went out and like a long time later, if you did not get the advanced payment back then, the only way somebody were to get it back then was to file a tax return to get it if they did not get the advanced payment. But that was a teeny tiny percentage of people that actually had to do that. The vast majority of beneficiaries, the vast majority of people did nothing, literally nothing. And you still got the payment, just arrived directly right into your bank account like magic. How did they do it? They know everything about you. That's how they did it. They already have all your data. That's how they did it. They have your banking info. That's how they did it, right? So you didn't have to do anything. This next time round will probably be the exact same situation. Now, to be fair, I always have to preface this by saying, who knows? Could this be some rogue situation where they say the only way you can get it this time is by filing a tax return? Okay, fine. Then we simply file a tax return and put a bunch of zeros on it. Who cares? Not that hard, right? But again, we don't know that quite yet. We don't know what they're going to require out of us to do this. But I can tell you this much, they're going to use prior year data, prior year income to determine somebody's eligibility. Because if they have an income threshold, which they absolutely 100% will, because in that original post by the president, he made it very clear, a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everybody. Well, actually, he said everyone, not everybody, everyone. But anyway, that's literally what he said almost 2 weeks ago in that post that I've showed you very clearly in videos. That's it. So we know there's going to be an income threshold because they don't want high-income people getting this. And I've also seen that comment popping up before down below as people say, this is only for the rich. No, it's not. It's for everybody but the rich. Rich people don't get stuff like this. Rich people do not get stimulus, okay? They do not get stimulus whatsoever, okay? So anyway, I just want to point this out for you super fast here. I hope this helps you to understand the situation. And again, I've heard not a single soul talk about this, but it's also a very important factor to take into consideration is that whatever happens all of 2025 and over the next, call it 6 weeks or so between now and the end of the year, will be used to determine your eligibility. And it's all based on your income. That's it. All they use is income, okay? Anyway, I see a lot of comments out there down below in the comment section on previous videos, on live streams. A lot of people are reaching out, very, very, very concerned about their eligibility for this, okay? Let me point out one last thing here. I'm going to jump off this live stream, which is this. Remember, what's the purpose of this $2,000? Is it because they care about us? No. Is it because they want to help us financially? Nope. Is it because they know that we're struggling financially? Nope. They don't care. It's none of that. It's none of it. Do you want to take a guess at what it is? We all know what it is. I said it earlier. They're going to put it right before the midterm election. We know why, right? Okay. And again, I'm not making a political video here. Unfortunately, because of what I talk about sometimes, it has to get a little bit political, but I try to be as neutral as I possibly can. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. That is not my style. It doesn't matter. I'm here to support you regardless of what anybody believes. It does not matter. I'm here to help you out with your finances, to help you maximize your monthly benefits and get as much money as you possibly can. But that's what it's all about. It's very, very, very obvious. Why would they give it to us, I don't know, in the middle to end of next year? It's very obvious, the whole purpose behind this, okay? So let's just assume and anticipate that this is, a little bit of a bribe. Okay, we know this very clearly, not a secret. But here's the thing. Assuming that this is a bribe, which it very well is, we know that, but assuming that, do you think, I don't know, a month, 2 months right before the midterm elections, they're going to come out and say, got a $2,000 payment for everybody? Oh, just kidding. Not for Social Security. Just kidding. We're not going to give it to those people. Could you imagine what a bad policy that would be? They would never, ever do that. Social Security beneficiaries, retirees, seniors, people with disabilities, this is the largest cohort of the population that goes out and votes. Do you think they're going to exclude these individuals from a $2,000 payment? Not a freaking chance in the world. Not a chance. Not a chance. In fact, if I could give them a recommendation, give it to just these individuals. Nobody else. Nobody else. Make it literally a dedicated check just to Social Security beneficiaries and basically fixed income people. Anybody living on a fixed income, basically eligible for it. And obviously the very, very low income. I think their thresholds of 75 grand or $150,000, again, they indicated under $100,000. But in my opinion, I think those income thresholds are still too high. I think they should lower to maybe like 50 grand or even less of income for an individual and like maybe 100 grand for a married couple. And then really what they could do is take all the money that would have gone, to higher income people there, and they basically could send this out in one bigger payment, or they could send out multiple checks. Again, $2,000. They could probably send out 2 of them for the same amount of money in total to the same group of people if they just lowered the income threshold significantly lower. Maybe 50 grand, maybe 40 grand as an individual, maybe $80,000 or $100,000 as a married couple. I don't know. When you get to that $100,000 mark, it's like, do they really need $2,000? I don't know. They'll probably take it, but again, I'm just broadly speaking here. I know that a lot of people probably still need that. I totally understand that as well. I'm just using some broad analogies and just numbers here to kind of make it, make sense a little bit. Anyway, does all that make sense for you? Anyway, drop your comments, your questions, your feedback down below. I'll continue to do what I can to answer those for you. Otherwise, come back in dedicated videos and in live streams just like this. But still a lot of unanswered questions about this. We still don't know a lot of details. There's a lot of things that we still need to understand and that they need to announce for us. But what it really needs to do, or what they really need to do, I should say, is to write this down. They really need to write it down. The reason I know that it's not written down, every time somebody opens their mouth about this, as in somebody within the administration or a lawmaker, they give us some random answer. They give us some random details. They're just winging it on the fly. They don't know. That's the point, is that if this were written down in a solid plan in writing, we'd have a much better idea of what we're working with here. We don't have it written down. That's why we're getting all these random answers across the board. They should really write this thing down. So at least we have somewhat of a framework to work from, rather than just like everybody's saying, oh, we think it's going to be this or that. No, what is it really going to be? Stop winging it and just tell us the details specifically, right? Anyway, I hope this helps you. Again, I've been seeing a lot of comments down below. I hope this helps you understand the situation. Again, drop your comments, your questions, your feedback down below. Otherwise, if you're new here or if you've not done so yet, make sure to subscribe. 100% free. Big subscribe button down below. Yeah, I'll keep you posted with everything going on right now. It's a weird time out there. Again, I say that all the time, but it is. I think we'd all probably agree it's a very, very weird time with everything happening. And I'm going to say this much. The next 2 months, what's the date today? The 20th, right? It's today the 20th? Yeah, 20th. Not even 2 months. The next 1 month is going to be make or break for this economy in the next, well, not even 2 months. Or sorry, it's going to be like 5 weeks. Basically between now and, I'm just going to say Christmas. I mean, realistically, this is going to be make or break for this economy. It's going to be very interesting. Let's just say that much, okay? Anyway, I'll keep you posted. Please, again, subscribe if you have not done so. Share the video, big share button down below. And again, as always, drop your comments, your questions, your feedback down below. I'm going to do whatever I possibly can, as that's my commitment and my promise to you, to be here to represent you, to advocate for you, to answer your questions, and to help you maximize your money, maximize your benefits, take advantage of any programs that are out there, anything that's going on right now. I want to help you get as much money as you possibly can through any programs and understand all of these weird changes and things that are happening. I'm here for you. All right, anyway, enjoy your day. Hope this helps. Again, subscribe, share the video, and I'll catch you again later. All right, anyway, I'll probably see you again a little bit later. In fact, I know for a fact I will, because there's a bunch of different weird things going on today even. All right, anyway, I always like to say this at the very end. I'm doing this live stream a little bit differently. If you're still here right now, you may want to just click off. You can hang out if you want. It's totally fine. But I'm going to unplug the microphone. When I do, my phone starts talking, and it's kind of annoying. All right, anyway, here I go. You'll hear my phone talk in just a second. And this. All right. I'll see you later.